The snow had been falling since dawn, thick and silent, burying the mountain trail in white so deep it swallowed sound and time alike. Eli Cole stood at the edge of the ridge, his boots half frozen, his coat heavy with frost, watching the lone figure struggle upward through the storm. People didn't come this way in winter. They knew better. The mountains did not forgive mistakes, and Eli had buried enough of them to recognize one forming below him. She moved slowly, each step careful, deliberate, as if pain lived in her bones. When the wind howled, she leaned into it, not cursing, not crying out, just enduring. That was the first thing that struck him. Not her face, not her shape beneath the thick shawl, but the way she refused to surrender. When she finally slipped, dropping to one knee, Eli didn't hesitate. He descended the slope with long, practiced strides and reached her before the cold could finish its work. Up close, he saw she was young, far too young to be climbing a mountain alone in a blizzard. Her cheeks were raw with cold, lashes rimed with ice, lips pale but set in stubborn resolve. "You'll freeze out here," he said, his voice rough from years of silence. He shrugged off his coat and held it out to her. She looked at it, then at him, and shook her head. "I won't take it," she said quietly. "You need it." Eli frowned. No one ever refused help up here, not when death was breathing down their neck. "You won't make it another mile," he replied. "I'm not dying today," she said, meeting his eyes with a steadiness that stopped him cold. "And I won't survive." By taking what keeps you alive, snow, settled into her dark hair, and that was when he noticed the black ribbon tied at her wrist, the mark of mourning, widow. The word hit him harder than the wind. "Who did you lose?" he asked, though he didn't know why. She hesitated only a second. "My husband," she said. "The river took him last spring," Eli nodded. He understood loss better than most. The mountains had taken his parents, his brother, his friends, one by one, until only he remained. Still, he pressed the coat into her hands. "You won't owe me anything," he said. "I don't take from the dead or the living." She pushed it back toward him. "And I don't survive by becoming someone I can't respect." Something shifted in him then, something deep and buried. He hadn't heard words like that in years. Against his better judgment, he wrapped the coat around her shoulders himself, fastening it tight. "Then we walk together," he said. "And we both live." She didn't argue. They moved slowly through the storm, step by step, silence stretching between them like a fragile thread. By the time they reached his cabin, night had fallen hard and fast. The fire roared to life, casting shadows across the rough-hewn walls. She stood near the door, hands clenched, as if unsure whether she was allowed warmth. "You're safe here," Eli said. "I won't touch you. I won't ask questions you don't want to answer." She finally nodded. "My name is Clara," she said. "I was told the mountains could hide me." "They can," he replied. "But they always demand a price." As she sat by the fire, color slowly returning to her face, Eli realized something unsettling. The storm outside no longer mattered. The real danger had already entered his life. Quiet and resolute, refusing his coat in the snow. And for the first time in years, the mountain man felt something he hadn't planned for, something far more dangerous than cold, hope. If this story has already pulled you in, if you want to know why Clara was running, and what the mountains would demand in return, remember to subscribe to the channel, because what happens next will change both of them forever. Morning came slowly in the mountains, not with warmth, but with a pale, watchful light that crept through the frost-lined window panes. Clara woke before the fire died, her body stiff from cold and memory alike. For a moment she forgot where she was, forgot the storm, the climb, the man who had carried silence like a second skin. Then she heard him outside, the measured chop of an axe splitting wood, steady and controlled as if rhythm itself was a promise. She rose, wrapping the borrowed coat tighter around herself, the scent of pine and smoke clinging to it, and stepped to the door. Eli stood in the snow, breath fogging the air, muscles moving beneath worn wool as he worked. He didn't turn when he spoke. "You're awake," he said. It wasn't a question. "I didn't mean to intrude," she replied, unsure why she felt the need to explain herself to a man who had already saved her life. "You didn't," he said, setting the axe aside. "Mountains decide who stays." They ate in silence, simple food, shared warmth. It was then Clara noticed the scars on his hands, pale lines crossing darker skin, stories etched without words. "Why do you live so far from everything?" she asked. Eli stared into his cup. "Because everything finds you eventually," he said. "Up here you hear it coming." The truth pressed on her chest. She had come here to disappear, not to be seen. But the mountains had other plans. By midday, the storm had passed, leaving the world sharp and clean, dangerous in its beauty. Eli showed her the trail she would need once the pass reopened. But Clara didn't move to leave. Her eyes lingered on the valley below, on the way the wind carved shadows in snow. "They'll keep looking," she said suddenly. "My husband's family, they think I owe them a life." Eli's jaw tightened. "Owe them what?" "A child," she said, voice steady though her hands trembled. "When my husband died, they decided I belonged to them again, that I should be married to his brother." The words hung between them, heavier than the cold. Eli turned to her then, really looked at her. "And you ran," he said. "I refused," she corrected. Running was their word. He nodded once. "You can stay here until you choose otherwise," he said. "No one comes this far unless they're desperate or stupid. They won't find you." Clara studied his face, searching for expectation for a price. There was none. Only the quiet certainty that he meant what he said. That night, as the wind returned and the cabin creaked, she dreamed of rivers and hands pulling her under. She woke gasping, and Eli was there, seated by the fire, not touching her, just present. "You're safe," he said again, like a vow he intended to keep. Days turned into weeks. Clara learned the mountain's language, the warning cry of wind through pine, the way silence meant snow, how Eli listened not with his ears but his whole body. She helped where she could, mending, cooking, learning to walk the frozen paths without fear. Laughter came one evening by accident, startling them both. It felt forbidden, like stepping onto thin ice. Eli withdrew after that, spending longer hours outside, returning with eyes dark and distant. Clara understood. Love was not something you reached for here. It was something that found you when you weren't watching. Trouble came on a gray afternoon when Eli returned with news carved into his voice. "Men were seen at the lower ridge," he said. "Not hunters." Clara felt the old fear rise, sharp and familiar. "They won't stop," she said. "They think I'm property." Eli placed his rifle on the table. "Not here," he said. "Not while I'm breathing." That night, lights flickered in the valley below. Voices carried faintly on the wind. The mountains, silent witnesses, waited. When the men came at dawn, they came with entitlement in their eyes and anger in their hands. Eli met them at the edge of the clearing, unarmed, his presence a warning in itself. "She's coming with us," the eldest said. "That's family law." Eli's voice was calm, deadly in its restraint. "Up here the mountain decides," he said. Clara stepped beside him then, lifting her chin. "I choose," she said. The brother lunged, and the mountain answered. Snow gave way, footing lost, a shot fired not to kill but to remind. When it was over, the men fled, fear finally louder than pride. Silence returned, thick and complete. Clara turned to Eli, tears freezing on her lashes. "You didn't have to," she said. He looked at her as if the truth were simple. "I wanted to," he replied. In that moment, something broke and something else was born. She reached for him, and this time he did not step back. The kiss was slow, reverent, earned by survival and choice, not desperation. Love, when it came, was not fire but warmth, steady and real. Spring would come eventually. Paths would open. Decisions would wait. But for now, the mountain held them. And for the first time, neither wanted to leave. If you felt this journey, if you want to know how love survives when the world finally reaches them, subscribe to the channel, because this story doesn't end here.